Hey, what's going on, guys? Eisendrache here. Welcome back to another video. In this one today, we're going to be doing a comparison kind of video between the maps Origins and Eisendrache. Now, these two maps are both considered some of the best of all time in the community eyes, and I just want to definitively figure out which one of the two is the best overall. Now, the way that we're going to do that is we're going to be taking 5 categories, those being map layout, weapons, mini bosses, Easter eggs, and replayability. Now, I believe that these 5 criteria define what makes a good zombies map, and the way that we're going to work this out is that each criteria is going to be giving a point to one of the maps, and at the end, whichever map has the most points will win in this sort of competition of which map is better. Now, with all that out of the way with, we can just jump right into our first category, which is going to be map layout. Now, the map layout on Origins is very complex compared to other maps. First of all, you have multiple different routes that you can take. You have all the side areas that are covered in mud that make it harder to run through, but can be pretty easy if you use the Mauser strat, where you can like zoom through the map using the Mauser. But other than that, for the casual player, it is going to be a very rough time for people to play through this map due to the mud. It is also just very big in scale, and that makes it very hard for newer players to just get used to the map in general. If you are a hardcore player, it's not that big of a deal, but even then, there's still not that many ways that you can transverse around the map. You do have the tank, but I mean, let's be honest, other than getting the electric staff parts, it's not really that useful. I just find it to be very annoying, especially because sometimes you can even outrun it, which is just a little bit weird to even include it on the map as a feature, but that's besides the point. You do also have robot heads that you can go into to get a little break if you want from time to time. That's pretty useful. That's pretty cool as well. But overall, I do think that the map layout on Origins is not that good. I do like it a lot if you are a hardcore player, but as a casual and as a normal person, if you're just running through this map, then it's not going to be a good time for you. You do have to constantly keep running around to turn on generators, and when the Templars start spawning in, it can be really hectic to do so. Now, the map layout on Eisendrache is very simple compared to Origins. I always find it easier to transverse around the map on Eisendrache compared to Origins. It is pretty much just one giant circle with the middle area with all the bows are at, and it's very simple for a new player to kind of get used to Eisendrache compared to Origins. I would always recommend people to play Eisendrache first if you're new to zombies, but it is also very good for complex hardcore players as well, because you do have the launch pads around the map, which aren't only used to get the firebow, but are also just very useful to transverse. Say you're stuck at like the launch pad area, the rocket's going off, and the teleporter is currently on a cooldown. You can use the launch pad, fly across the map, instantly get to wherever you need to be, and you can also get the firebow while you're at it as well. I do find it simpler overall to transverse around the map on Eisendrache compared to Origins. On Origins, you always have to worry about where the gramophone is placed, you have to worry about the mud, you have to worry about where the tank is at, and on Eisendrache, it's mostly just mindless fun that's very consistent, and I do find that a lot easier, and that is why Eisendrache is going to be getting the point for this round. I'll leave a little scoreboard at the bottom so you guys can pretty much just keep up as we go along. Moving into our next category, this is going to be going to weapons. Now, weapons on Origins are very solid. You have great weapons like the MG08, you have the Scar, you have the Scorpion Evo. All those weapons are phenomenal and fit with the map really well. You even have some okay weapons like the KSG, but overall, I would say that the weapons, in terms of just base guns, are very good on Origins. Now, moving on to the wonder weapons, I do believe that the staffs are great as well. You have pretty much 3 uses for the staffs. You can melee with them once they're fully upgraded. You can use them to revive your teammates if you flip them around and you use like the little backside of the staff. And you also have just a great charge attack with normal attacks as well. And I do believe that these staffs overall are just way more versatile than the bows. Origins also has a wide selection of melee weapons as well. You can get the Iron Fist if you're doing the Easter egg. You can also get the Elemental Knife if you're that willing to go that far into the Easter egg and get it. It's just very versatile with all the weapons that are on Origins, and I'm surprised that no other map up to this point has released as many weapons that Origins has. Now, Eisendrache, on the other hand, has no new weapons, and this is kind of a problem for Black Ops 3 in general. They didn't add in any new DLC weapons or weapons in general until the later season, like Zetsubo and Gorod Krovi, so we kind of had to suffer with the base Black Ops 3 weapons for Eisendrache, Shadows of Evil, and the Giant, which does kind of suck, but Eisendrache does make up for it because it does have a wide selection of wonder weapons, those being the bows. but I don't think that the bows can compare to the staffs. That's just my opinion with it. I do think that the bows are a little bit weaker and less versatile because there's no melee feature, there's no capability of reviving your teammates, and overall I don't think that it's that worth it to build a bow compared to a staff. Obviously the bows are easier to make compared to the staffs, but I still do believe that Origins wins this point by a landslide. Moving into our next criteria, this is going to be the mini bosses. Now, the mini bosses on Origins are very limited. There's only one new one, and that is the Panzer. Now, the Panzer is a very, very good mini boss. I do find it to be intimidating whenever it does spawn on the map. It's very cool because it has the claw, it has the flamethrower, everything that a mini boss should have, not being too overpowered as well. If you do have a staff, by the time it does show up on round 8, it can be very, very easy to manage and kill. But if you don't, it can be quite a challenge. Now, with this mini boss, it does spawn in quite frequently, especially if you're doing the Easter egg. But like I said before, if you do have a staff, not really too much of a big deal. On the other hand, you have Eisendrache, which has a much wider selection of mini bosses. First off, you have the Hellhounds, which are a very welcome change to any zombies map that they are put on. Obviously, with those Hellhounds, they are very useful, they're very easy to kill, they give you max ammo towards the end of the round, and it's just a relaxing round to go through. Don't really have much to complain about with the Hellhounds. But there also is the return of the Panzer from Origins. Now with this Panzer, it's a lot more difficult to kill. One, the Panzers on Eisendrache upscale in health, so a Panzer on round 50 is going to have a lot more health and be harder to kill than the one that's on round 12, which is very, very annoying. But not only that, the Panzers on Eisendrache also have a new attack, which they shoot these blue grenades in the air that stun you and they blur your screen a little bit. They're just very annoying compared to the claw mechanic on Origins, and so I do find the Origins Panzer to be a little bit better. Overall, though, I would say Eisendrache gets the point for this one just because it has more of a variety of bosses and they're more easy to deal with for the most part compared to the very limited options that are on Origins. Moving on to our next criteria, this is going to be the Easter eggs. Now, the Easter eggs on Origins are very, very complex. First of all, you have the main quest Easter egg, which is 8 steps. Step 1 usually takes about 45 minutes, which sounds ridiculous, but then the last 7 steps aren't really too bad. Usually they can finish in like 30 minutes or so, so not too bad on those last 7, but the first step, building all the staffs and upgrading them, just takes forever and is kind of tedious most of the time, so I don't really find much enjoyment in that. Still though, I do think that the Origins Easter egg is obviously still one of the best of all time. First of all, it is mainly the Easter egg that people will speedrun, and second of all, you can always improve, make your time a little bit better. There's always something to improve on Origins, so that's all very fun and whatnot. Now, Eisendrache, on the other hand, has a very, very simple Easter egg compared to Origins. The Easter egg on Eisendrache pretty much just consists of building a bow if you're playing solo, and then flipping some switches, doing Simon Says, and then the boss fight, which overall just sounds pretty easy to do, and it is very easy to do. Aside from probably the boss fight can be a little bit challenging from time to time, but I don't really find too much of an issue with the Easter egg on Eisendrache. Only step that I don't really like is the one where you have to go back in time twice. Don't really find much of a use of doing the whisk step twice. Doesn't really make sense to me. Doesn't really fit in with the map too well. But that's kind of the only thing that I do hate with the Easter egg. There isn't that much replayability with it either. I don't really find myself going back constantly doing the Eisendrache Easter egg unless I'm playing it with people who haven't really done an Easter egg ever. But other than that though, I do think that Origins wins the point for this one. I do find a lot more enjoyment with doing the Origins Easter egg overall, and I do think that it has a lot more replayability and is overall just more fun to play through. Now with our last criteria, this is going to be the replayability factor. Now with Origins, there is a lot of replayability when you're doing the Easter egg, or if you're just going for high rounds as well. I do find it to be really fun to go back and play through Origins. Problem is that it's very, very tedious most of the time. I do have to like prepare myself a lot whenever I do load onto Origins because I know I'm going to be doing the Easter egg for like a couple hours, which does kind of suck, kind of draws me a little bit away from doing the Easter egg. But overall, I still do think that the replayability factor on Origins is really strong compared to other maps, just for the simple fact that it's one of the best maps to speedrun on. It's one of the best maps to go for high rounds on. You can just get the ice staff, sit in a tunnel anywhere, and you can just go to whatever round you want. It's very fun for that, and I do think that the replayability on Origins is great. Eisendrache, on the other hand, is very replayable as well. I do find the Easter egg to be a little bit more replayable than the one on Origins. I do find myself going back and playing the Eisendrache Easter egg more, mainly because I like doing it with friends or people who just haven't done Easter eggs ever. It's a lot more fun to go through Eisendrache's Easter egg for the first time players than Origins, because Origins just seems way too complex for newer players to zombies. So for that, I do think that the replayability does go to Eisendrache in terms of the Easter egg. And in terms of high rounds as well, I do find Eisendrache to be a lot more enjoyable. I do find the high rounds to be a little bit more difficult because you do have to deal with the upscaling health with the Panzers. But if you can get by that, it is a very good high round to go for, especially since it is on Black Ops 3 as well. I do find Black Ops 3 high rounds to be a lot more fun and enjoyable compared to ones on Black Ops 2. So overall, I would say that Eisendrache gets the point for this category. Anyways, guys, that's going to wrap up this video for today. As you can see, Eisendrache wins this one because it has 3 points compared to the 2 points that Origins has. I do think as it stands right now, Eisendrache is the better map overall. It'll change. Sometimes I'll say that Origins is better, but as it stands right now, I will definitely say that Eisendrache is the better map. But that's just my opinion. Anyways, guys, if you did enjoy, definitely leave a like, subscribe, do all that. Leave your comments down below if you want to see me do any other type of videos. Go down in the description, check out the Comfy Cushion podcast, check out Lucian Johnson's TikTok as well. I'll leave all that down there. And yeah, I got nothing much else to say, so peace.